This video is Jenny's first year Latin chapter 1. We are going to be discussing first of all the endings in first declension, and then we'll go on and discuss the rest of the chapter, the vocabulary and the exercises and the readings. Okay, let's see how well this turned out. Alright, first declension endings. Now, in your book, they're written a little bit different, but this is the general way to know the endings in Latin. Okay? First declension endings. We have the singular right here, and then the plural. The PL stands for plural. N is for nominative, G is for genitive, D is for dative, AC is for accusative, ABL for ablative. Remember, nominative is the subject, and we'll talk more about that in the chapter. But first we're going to try to have these endings memorized. So you'll know that for nominative it's A, then AE, ablative, long A. The long mark is important. You'll get points taken off if you don't put the long mark on the A. Then the plural is AE, east, that's long IS, AS, and east, long IS again. I have in the Latin class list a song about first and second declension endings. Now that we've discussed first declension endings, it may be helpful for you to listen to it and read the words as they sing it, so you know what the endings are. They are using the word fama and putting the endings on it. So they have fama, famai, famai, famam, fama with the long A. Remember, we are not stressing pronunciation, and I was not taught that way. We are stressing reading, we're just stressing derivatives, English words derived from Latin, and we're also stressing medical terminology. That was just a reminder. Okay? We also have a side note. It's not that we're not learning vocative, but for first declension, vocative endings are the same as the nominative endings. This is exactly how you write it down in your notebook, so take time to pull out your notebook and write down the endings. If you need to, pause it and write the endings down as you see them. You write first declension endings, then the A, AE, AE, AM, long A, AE for plural, RM for the genitive, east, os, east. So you need to do that now. In your book, the first word they teach you is puella, and that would make it puella, puelli, puelli, puellam, puella with the long A, puelli, puelli. Let me redo the plural. Puelli, puellarum, puellis, puellas, puellis. Remember in the book they have vocative right under nominative, but I want you, again, to write it down, nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, and ablative. Still learn the vocative, but it's not going to be written down in the paradigm like this. You'll just write it nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, ablative, because that's how you learn it in other Latin classes, and I want you to be able to transfer anything you've learned in this class into any other classes you may take in the future. Okay? On page 4 in your book, it has the nominative case. The nominative case serves two functions. The main one is the subject. So the girl loves the boy. And that would have the nominative ending of A, puella. It also serves as a predicate nominative. If you don't remember what that is, it is a noun that comes after a linking verb. The linking verb being is, was, will be, and that will take the nominative case as well. And they have the example of Gaul is a province. Gallia es provincia. Notice that in the vocabulary on the next page, if you have more questions about nominative, it's the subject and the predicate nominative. If you have more questions, please feel free to email me or call me or text me, and I'll discuss it more with you. And the vocabulary on the next page, though, on page 5, it lists Gallia, Gaul, but it doesn't explain more. Gallia, yes, it's Gaul, but that today would be considered France. So that might be helpful for you to know. Gallia, today, Gaul is France. So I thought that would be helpful for you to know. The first word, I'm going to go ahead and say that the majority of first declension nouns are feminine. So if it is ending in A, AE in the vocabulary, you can almost always assume that it's feminine unless, here's the note, unless the noun is talking about a male. Back in those days, a farmer would only be a male. The women stayed at home. So Agricula in your vocabulary is masculine, farmer. Agricula, farmer. Now we are also going to discuss derivatives. It's not in your book, but we will be talking about it. And a derivative of Agricula, also common that, if you can think about it, would be, it would be agriculture. That is one derivative, one English word that is derived from Agricula. The next word is aqua, aquae, feminine, water. Now, in Spanish, it would be agua. So if that helps you remember that aqua is water, then remember agua. They're very similar, and they have the same meaning. And yes, it is feminine. Like I said, most are feminine. Derivative of aqua, also not in your book, but one you can write down, is aqueduct. And that is literally something bringing water. Duct comes from duco, lead or bring, and then aqua, water. Femina, feminae is, of course, a feminine gender, being that it's a woman. The obvious derivative, of course, is feminine. So you have that right there. Fortuna, fortunae, an English word, is also not only the meaning, but also the derivative, fortune. And this is also feminine. Here we have Gallia, Galliae, feminine, and they translate as Gaul. Remember, that's France. We have insula, insulae, and you get peninsula from it. That's your English derivative. And insula means island. Peninsula comes from two Latin words, paine, almost, and insula, island. And it would literally mean almost an island. Lingua, linguae, feminine, language or tongue. So Latin would be the tongue or language of the ancient Romans. I think we skipped Italia, Italiae, Of course, we get Italy from that, which is also the meaning. And the derivative of lingua, linguae, would be linguistic. When you write down in your notebook, you're going to write down, we already had you writing down from the introduction what each of the cases were, nominative being subject, etc. Then I want you to write down the endings as I had on the board, and then you can write down the vocabulary. And when I mention the derivative, I'd like you to write that derivative down as well. And if you can think of another derivative, write that down too. 4 more points. Littera, litterae, feminine letter. Memoria, memoriae, feminine. And again, the meaning is also the English derivative. Memory. Natura, naturae, feminine. And nature is also the derivative and the meaning of natura. Poeta, poetae, poet. Now back then, most writers were male, so poeta is masculine. The majority are feminine, but this one is masculine. Provincia, provinciae, feminine province. That's also the English derivative. Puella, puellae, feminine girl. Silva, silvae, feminine forest. Vita, vitae, feminine life. And an English derivative would be vital, which is going to be important also for a medical degree, knowing that what vitals mean. Vitals are checking on someone's life. Est is, there is. Sunt, are, there are. We'll learn all the forms of to be later on, but right now you're learning first person singular and first person plural. I mean third person. I'm sorry. I haven't been away for long. So that's third person singular est and third person plural sunt. And for your exercises, I want you to give the case number and translate the first exercise, A and B, do A and B in the exercises. And send me your answers, and we'll see if you understand this. If not, we can go back over it, or you can watch this video again, whichever one you need to do. But I want you to do A and B. Underneath that is the reading lesson. O puellae Gallia est provincia. In Gallia provincia sunt silvae, in silvis sunt agriculae. Poetis est memoria Gallia. So all these words are in your vocabulary, and I want you to try the best that you can to translate it, and together we'll go over it. I won't be leaving quite yet, and we'll have a moment to go over this and discuss your exercises and your reading lessons. After we do Chapter 2, you will have a test. So we need you to learn Chapter 1 and do your A and B and the reading lesson. And we'll also talk more about the picture, about the house, the inside of the house, and how all the Romans lived. But I can't have more than a 15-minute lesson, so I need to stop now. So, voila! And I will see you for the next video for Chapter